Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. Today we've got some big news actually for summon events this weekend, and also more information, clarification on the Blade Master Titan event and where those points are coming from. And it's fairly good news actually, I would say overall. So first of all, let's look at these summoning events. This is what's happening. Interestingly enough, it actually starts from tomorrow, Thursday. No, wait, sorry. Not tomorrow. Today is Tuesday. It starts in 2 days on Thursday. I've lost track. That's the 29th of February. A truly exciting day. Never comes around that often, but here it is. And it's going to be a 2x Sacred Shard event for, well, actually 4 days instead of 3. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 2x Sacred Shards. On Thursday, there will be a 10x for Aislinn the Stalwart. This is the cousin of Aislinn the Stalwart, the new faction Unity legendary. So he is up in a 10x for 2 days. Then on Saturday, it's the Archer. She's back again. Oh my god. The Archer is back for a 10x and a 2x event on Saturday. So Saturday, Sunday, it's the 2x for her. So there we go. Kind of what you would expect. The two, I guess, most premium champions at the moment. We've heard so much about them. Yeah, Archer, this is truly the last chance to get her, and it's not really a surprise. She has been the most exclusive. The others all had fairly guaranteed ways to get them that were somewhat accessible. Her guaranteed way was a champion training tournament, so very, very exclusive. So you got another last gasp attempt to get her. I don't think I'll bother really. And then we do have Aislinn, who's the new faction Unity. Again, remember, he is not normally summonable. He is only summonable during these special events. And I'm actually not 100% sure. Like, can you summon him on Saturday and Sunday? Maybe you can only summon him Thursday and Friday. I'm actually not sure. But he is not usually in the shard pool, only from these events. Now, Aislinn, I did a whole showcase on him. I found that he's extremely good at protecting your team, like really strong, especially with the faction Unity bonus. It's really, really good. But we also found in the testing, this move, you need to build him with lots of damage to make this hit hard, and it's actually quite awkward to use it to hit hard. It's hard to have lots of shields. He rips all the shields off to do the attack. It's not easy to min-max it, certainly not in typical arena settings. I guess in live arena it's a bit easier, but it's kind of tricky. Day 1 is good, but yeah, I don't know. Like, this guy, he's pretty cool, and he's really fun synergy with other banner lords. I'm not sure if he's a must-use type champion. Like, I have seen some people use him, with Taras and Marishka, but that's obviously becoming a bit of a weaker team now. I mean, maybe he's good against the new couple, right? Against the White Queen and King. Maybe he's better against them with Taras and Marishka. But I mean, you could just use like Sifi Ultimate Death Knight or have like a crazy team, or you can use Sifi plus Crixia high end. Not seen too much use for Aislinn, but he is really solid. And like I said, there's limited opportunities to chase for him. I would say if I was going to go for either of these, I'd actually probably recommend not really going for them. But if I was, I would probably go for Barbarians first. I go for the Archer first because she is more limited. I believe after the 5th of March, you will never be able to get her again. I mean, possibly there'll be another Monster Hunter collab in the future, but it's quite likely you'll never get her again. She'll be gone forever. Whereas Aislinn, I think, is likely to keep showing up. I think these faction Unity champions are actually very likely to keep showing up in events in the future. Now, of course, there will be more. I'm sort of expecting one faction Unity champion per patch and lots of events around each single one. But I see no reason why they won't do reruns of Aislinn events in the future, possibly ones where it's easier to get him. Like I said, I think he's cool. If you're close to Mercy and you've got loads of shards, then sure, go for it. But I've got 13, so I'm not too convinced. Now, interestingly enough, we also have got a progressive chance on right now. So let's break it down. Like, if we were to put in the Archer, like, how does that compare? I did some very, very, very quick maths. I believe there are 170 non-void legendaries in the shard pool right now. So in a 10x event, if you got a legendary, all of these are if you got the legendary, you'd have a 5.6% chance to get your one. In an X15, which is what this is, you have an 8.2 if you got a legendary for it to be her. At X20, it'd be 10.6, and X25, 12.9%. Again, correct me if I get any of this math wrong. I've done it fairly quickly, but it should still be broadly correct, I think. Now, for Sacred Shards, right? Your chance, this is roughly how many shards it takes from a fresh Mercy, but including the Mercy timer, which reduces the amount of shards you need. Approximately how many shards you pull to get a legendary, typically speaking. Now, obviously, this can vary a lot in smaller sample sizes, but in non 2x events, it typically takes about 11.8 shards to get a legendary. In 2x events, about 7.6. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a crazy difference, but it is a substantial difference between the two. So I did like a quick workout, and honestly, with some very quick maths, this is what I figured out. If I had 24 sacred shards, I just went with these numbers because it's fairly easy. So you're basically getting approximately 2 legendaries in the X15, X25. So you'd have one shot at X15 and one shot at X20. I figure it's about a 16% chance with 24 sacreds in this X15 or 25. If you pull 24 sacreds, you'd have a roughly 16% chance to get her. If you did it then this weekend in a 2x sacreds with the X10 for the archer, you get more legendaries. You get like at least on average one more, basically. But I think it still works out at roughly about a 16% chance to get her. So I think it's better, actually. I think the 2x, 10x is better. You're going to get an extra legendary. It should work out at a fairly similar chance. Again, someone that's more good than me at maths can break this down because probability is complicated. And I think, if you lower the number of sacreds, with 12 sacreds, it becomes a bit more abstract because you'd be getting approximately the one legendary. But again, you could be unlucky and not get it. But again, you'd still have that 8.2 basically chance to get the archer. Now with 1.6, right, it really depends on how that 0.6 goes. You could be, 12 sacreds in the 2x, you could be unlucky and only get one. You could even, in theory, get none. But let's say you only got one, you'd only have the 5.6% chance. You could be a lucky person and you could have more like it wouldn't quite be 16%, but, you'd have a much bigger chance. I didn't actually work that out, sorry. So it would sort of vary depending on how you go. I say on average, it's pretty similar. On average, like a 9% chance if you combine the two, 1.6, but you're more rolling the dice there, I should say. That gives you a rough insight. I mean, there's some technicalities depending on how many shards you have. For me, by the way, so you can't see, I've got 13, right? Am I going to go for this? No, I'm not going for either one. Sure, I would love to have the archer. I'd love it. It would be brilliant, but I'm nowhere close to Mercy. Yeah, I mean, like I'm looking at 5% chance, roughly a 5% chance to get her. So yeah, sure, 5, 6, 7% of the time. Let's say best case 7% of the time with my 13 sacreds, I'd walk away super happy. I got the archer, great. 93% of the time though, I'm walking away going, oh, well, I didn't get her, and now I've got no sacreds left for the future. So kind of screwed, basically. And that's a pretty big deal. Remember, we're going to have a fusion starting almost definitely next week. I think it's quite likely there'll be a new fusion next week. Got no idea what that is. Probably starts not this Thursday, but next Thursday, most likely. And yeah, it's most likely it's going to start with a summon rush and then be followed by 2x voids is most likely what's going to happen. So it's going to be fairly intensive shard-wise, and if it's fairly intensive shard-wise, there's a chance it's going to be a pretty good fusion. But never know. We will see. So that's sort of my vibe on it. With 13 sacred shards, I would much rather be saving those. I think in general, like we just saw White King Narses come in as a guarantee from void shards, right? I've always preferred guaranteed events in the past, and this is only pushing me more towards it. To put a champion as strong as White King Narses as a guaranteed, it's showing that Plarium is willing, yeah, perhaps even eager to put extremely good champions as guaranteed champions. So yeah, I think it makes sense to hoard shards for guaranteeds again, like going back to what I'm doing with the ancients and stuff. Trying to hold on to as many shards as is physically possible, I think is the play going forwards. That would be my advice. Let's throw him in. One fun thing, he actually double hits the boss, which is kind of cool. We saw it on stream today. Now, the other info that we have coming in, which is really interesting, move this out of the way so you can see him kind of killing stuff. We shrink this down. So the other thing that's really interesting is we have had it confirmed that there will be a champion chase tournament this weekend. Let me pause that real fast. Okay, if I jump over into Plarium Plate in the events calendar, it is not in the calendar yet, but there will be a champion chase tournament. I guess running from Thursday through Sunday, or probably ending on Monday morning when the shard stuff ends. But champion chase will be here, overlapping all this 2x sacred business. However, it will not give you any points towards the Blade Master Titan event. So that's good news, but there will be a champion chase. It's probably going to be a fairly big one, and there's probably going to be some fairly big rewards. We don't know what those rewards are, but it has been confirmed to be happening. So at least there's that. So I just paused right there to check if there's any updates. No other updates. But what that means is that the events that we saw from the start are, in fact, the only events. So you see Viking Narcissus, he solos this pretty quick, at least in my gear. I'll do a guide on them later. I just thought that'd be kind of fun to see. Sorry, this is the wrong one. So if we come over to the Blade Master Titan event, these were my predictions at the start. So my predictions at the start are actually fairly accurate, but I was really thinking that there was a good chance there could be a summon event with points in it. That actually turns out now it's not the case. That's good. So this was how week 1 went. So 950 points in week 1. So there was actually 100 points in artifact enhancement, which was 50 more than I expected. And there was only 150 in the champ training, which was 50 less than I expected. But other than that, we were bang on with the predictions for the Blade Master Titan event. This means coming into week 2, we're actually correct so far on Dungeon Divers Ice Golem. Classic Arena is almost definitely going to be 50. I was predicting, I think, only 50 for Artifact Enhancement 2. That's actually now gone up to 100. And then I think probably, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about this. I think it's probably more likely to be 50 for Fire Knight. I think it might be a massive champ training event to end it with 250 points. I think that's what we're looking at. I think this champion training event is likely to have 250 points, right? Because Ice Golem is on right now. It's a turn attack, isn't it? We've got Ice Golem turn attack tournament for 50. So it stands to reason. Yeah, 50 points. I think it stands to reason the Fire Knight turn attack is probably 50 points as well. Which I keep opening the wrong notepad. Too many notepads. 2 is more than my brain can handle. So I think it probably looks like this. I think it's going to be a big old champion training at the end. And I think that makes sense as well. Like for people that are shooting for, right, the 1500, it means that you can't skip it, right? You come to the end, you cannot skip the entire of the champ training, though. I mean, getting the 50 points should be pretty straightforward, but it could be a pretty intensive one. And we'll see if there's any other rewards baked in there or whatnot. But that seems to be sort of where we're at. So personally, for me, I am going to close. No, I'm going to move this to the other screen so I stop clicking it. For me, I'm considering maybe skipping Dungeon Divers. There's 150 points I could skip there, then max out champion training. That to me maybe seems like the way to go. Like the current Dungeon Divers that's on right now is kind of miserable, guys. It's a bit of a brute of an event. 5,200 points for Dungeon Divers. It is a massive chunk. So seeing for me, I've done the other events. I think I can actually skip this one. Do all of champion training, which I'm not going to enjoy, but probably more doable than the Dungeon Divers. And I can actually come all the way and get the 1,500 for the Eternal Soulstone. Now, again, if you are only going for the 4-star Blade Master Soul, this should be much easier to do. Like, again, I'm going to get that today, actually, because I did the guaranteed Narcies. So anyone who did guaranteed Narcies, there was 300 points in there. So you are good. I guess that's also something to note, right? If you skipped this Summon Rush, 300 points, like there's no way for you to get this or the Mythical Skill Tome. You've missed both of those. And you could easily skip the rest of these. Like it's sort of up to you, right? You know now what's coming. It's basically, we've done all the easy stuff. The Summon Rush was hard. Champ Training was hard, but the rest was easy. Dungeon Divers is tough. And then the Champion Training is probably going to be pretty intensive. So those are the two ones that are left. Dungeon Divers, Champ Training. You know how many points are up for each. We're already doing this one. Like I said, this is fairly likely. So yeah, I think that's how it's looking. So long as I've added this up right, I think I have 250, 300, 350, 450, 500. Yeah, I think we're good. So that's how it's looking. Let me know what you are planning to do. But yeah, it does mean this event's actually turned out well. And I'd love to have more clarification from Plarium in the future. Again, like, there's a champ. We know now there is a champion chase tournament coming this weekend, but they didn't share it in the event thing. Like, you need to establish this trust, Plarium. Like, come on. Like, it's great. Make it more clear next time. Be like, yeah, Blade Master Titan event is happening. This is how many points it's for every event, and these are the events. That's it. Don't leave us here guessing like, oh, are there going to be points in a champion chase tournament? because we know it's not on the calendar, but we know it's coming. And then what do you know? Yeah, surprise champion chase tournament. It's a bit of a funky one. I think it's good that it doesn't tie into the Titan event. This Titan event has actually been fairly decent. I think. I think it's been in a good spot, right? I think milestone 5 being basically the whale section. It has great rewards that they feel very nice to get, but it's sort of whale territory. I think having the soul be actually fairly doable for a typical player that's going to invest into doing the events. But you know, it's doable. I think it's doable to get the 4-star soul. And there's also good things in here like 5 chaos dust, void charge, 6-star speed glyph, immortal. There's really nice rewards in milestone 4. I think that's a great spot to be, and I'm totally fine with that. Milestone 4 being great rewards and accessible to everyone, and then the bigger whale section, that's fine. We can live with that. You know, we've sort of made our peace with that with this game, so that's okay. And it means that like a typical player can skip this nonsense because that is just brutal. Again, there's nice rewards, but dear lord, there's so many points. But yeah, that's where we're at. Let me know what you think about all of this. Are you going to summon Sacred Shards this weekend chasing the Archer? For me, I've basically said I'm not getting this champion, and I'm okay at that. I feel like if you wanted her, the thing to do, like it's looking back at this now that we've effectively seen all the summon events for this. The only way to get the Archer really was to be quite lucky or whale out, right? If you wanted to have a decent chance to get her, it was whaling out. And I think the way to do that was the champion training tournament, which is its own, you know, its own thing. It's a miserable thing to do, but it is the best way to get her, probably for the least amount of money. Like it's a ton of money to win that champion training tournament. It's a ton of work and effort, but it's less expensive than getting her with shards. Yeah, again, I think for a typical person, there's no way you're gonna have enough sacreds to be able to do. But yeah, again, my advice would be coming to the end. If you're close to your mercy timer, right? Again, like if you've pulled 12 sacreds or more without hitting a legendary. You know, like if you're like 18, if it's been 20 sacreds since your last legendary, you know what? 20 sacreds since your last legendary, I'd say slaughter into the 15x and roll the dice. You got whatever, the 8% chance to get her. Why the heck not? She's limited edition. I would do that. But for most people, probably skip it. And I think this weekend event is pretty comparable to this one. This one is better with Mercy. This weekend, I guess it'd be better if you're buying Sacred Shards, but Sacred Shards are so expensive, it's not really worth it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.